Hi there, and welcome to another video that will show the development of the rat hole environment. This video is just going to be a breakdown fly-through video of certain assets and certain aspects and design choices. Obviously, I'll be providing commentary, as you can hear, just to help uh, show my thoughts and feelings and why I made certain choices that I did. So yeah, if you haven't seen any other videos, it's probably best to go check out the production video, as it will help sort of give more sense of the structure and how we came to this actual final version of the environment. So let's get into it. So right at the start, we can see we're at the main door area, and we just immediately are presented with some crates and obviously in the distance, but we'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, we have these crates here which are just placed there to help block out the scene some more and add depth. We can obviously see this metal wall panel texture, which is using texture blending. It is a mix between the roof panel you can see at the top here and these screw rivets here. I think this is a very interesting choice as it helps immediately help someone identify that this is indeed a metallic wall, suggesting a sort of industrial, futuristic type in setting. Obviously, speaking about industrial, we have these pipes here, which, obviously pipes always help block out things as well, can add some aesthetic points to an environment. And if we can see here, we have another pipe which obviously is detailed enough to be able to actually read these warning signals about coolant being inside these pipes, obviously just adding to the world building. We also have this, the first of many holographic emissive textures here, which is obviously has a shader going through it, which is operating a panner line system, which is help creating this sort of flicker, just add something more than just a simple bland, static, bold, emissive texture. So yeah, moving on, we can obviously get to this part here where we can see this bigger pipe, and obviously it suggests, a bit more importance. And immediately we're presented with a very, we can see the condition that this is in, which is very poor. We've got coolant leaking onto the floor here. We've got smoke, and again another control panel that is of course an emissive hologram, which helps suggest that this is obviously the center, command center for these pipes as they sort of like converge on its location. Yeah, another thing to point out as well is obviously the wood floor. Of course, the aesthetic design mission of this environment is to try and blend a cyberpunk type feeling with a more natural, chaotic wood texturing. I think obviously this texture is doing some interesting things. We can actually see, the knots inside the wood as well as the actual panels, and just we're getting some really good, realistic textures that actually would help convince us that this is indeed wood paneling. Obviously, the a lot of referencing and use of real photography was used to try and simulate as much as I could the real uh, patterns that wood panel and floor texture and takes on. Luckily, I actually currently live in a place with these with laminated flooring, so it helps give me a sense of space and how to divide out these panels, which I think are doing a pretty good job of being in a good scale in relation to everything else. But yeah, let's move on. So obviously we can see we have some other pipes which have just been added for depth, and we come to this other area where there is another door, yet it is blocked off by these massive crates. Again, this is just a small piece of to point your eye of interest. As we can see, we've got this crate hauler here, which obviously helps just add a sense of, okay, how did you get these massive things into an apartment block like this? Well, you do it with one of these, and we can see more of the emissives here. Again, it is just something cobbled together in Photoshop. A lot of the emissives and text flat 2D textures you'll see here were just created in Photoshop in simple target files that can be manipulated later in Engine. So obviously this is quite a detailed one. We can see there's some. I just put some Japanese text and stuff like that, as obviously there is some weird affinity for having Japanese Tokyo type style stuff in Cyberpunk. So, although it's derivative, I want to add some familiarity to it. So yeah, that's basically this scene, and obviously we can see this light artifact here, which is dubbed the light rod. That's obviously in a neutral color of white, just to help highlight a little bit of this area as a point of interest. So yeah, moving on, we can see these another type of pipes, and we can see these pipes are actually attached into this piece here, where we can see there's actually space for another pipe, though that is obscured by the table as to why there's not another one here. And obviously the condition of these is quite poor as well, as we can see some smoke coming out of it, suggesting that it probably needs tightened up and some maintenance done to it. And we reach sort of the main centerpiece of the interior environment, which is a command center, or a place where whoever operates this area would be, you know, well, spending most of their time. So yeah, we can see a lot of things going on here. So first off, we have the desk, which has definitely seen better days. Obviously, it's got spillage and just a lot of, well, cans of energy drink stuff in it and whatnot. And obviously, we have a little nod here to the Tron series with just this little emissive light bike. And also, we have this heavy, very military styled central box hooked up to this screen here, which is obviously displaying in a little animation. That animation's been achieved by using RGB channels and just simply layering it to where we just add a rotator to say red, and then red is actually data center circle spinning. So yeah, it's just simple, but I feel like it adds more. It doesn't really make sense, but it adds more as it's better than just a static image on a screen, which can get quite boring to look at. So yeah, obviously we have another emissive here, which is the main command console of this entire place, and obviously the chair as well sort of again hints to the past ways of this environment being a bit more of an elite upper type, place, but now it's definitely been repurposed for more criminal elements. Moving on, we have another light rod here. This was actually one of the first artifacts I designed, and you can see there's another one adjacent to it. So yeah, it's basically simple. The universe lore of this is just basically they're like construction lights. You'd see them anywhere on a construction site, and they're quite cheap, and they're self-sustaining and stuff like that. So yeah, I like to add backstory to a lot of these props and characters. So obviously we can see some maintenance still to be done here. There's some of these boxes have been set up to allow us access to these tools, such as an all-purpose power tool, sorry, and a panel to check on, wires. As we can see, this is obviously some sort of electrical damage to this part of the environment, and also this is a really good part to really show that a lot of the natural element to this environment is fake. It's not actually wood, it's just some panel you put on top of the actual concrete foundation of, any apartment in this universe. So yeah, I think this is quite an interesting piece that shows off, just exactly what is underneath the belly of, well, every building you're seeing in this environment. So then we move to the fireplace, which obviously is just one asset that was made to use in several. As you can see, these blocks were individually placed to sort of give it, that more chaotic but deliberate chaotic placement you can see in some of these more grander fireplaces that you usually would see in a lodging cabin or something like that. So yeah, we have these little cans as well, just because again, some in-universe lore is basically that these cans are sort of your everyday, liquid nutrients that you need to ingest, and obviously they're styled like energy cans just because they're quite addictive and stuff like that. But yeah, moving on here, we have some more of these crates. The idea behind these crates was that the white one with the blue emissives was more tools, where you'd store tools. That's what it's traditionally sold as. And the lower one, which has a sort of green and red, was a bit more military, so there might be hardware like firearms or grenades or something like that inside these. Obviously, the theme of this place is that a criminal element now controls this single apartment and uses it for, well, criminal elements. So yeah, obviously I think this is a nice little uh, theme as well, a little nice composition. It shows good usage of blocking out space and, really helping your environment. To explain the pillows, basically, the idea is that, well, there's no beds in this environment, so you just kind of have to make do with whatever space you can find. So a couple of pillows propped up against a place like this could allow for, you catch a few hours sleep, or even if there's other people that are part of your gang or whatever, could just fan out. Obviously, we can see some more over the window there and some behind these little steps here. So yeah, that's basically the main interior of this place. Obviously, I think it does definitely tell a story. You know, it's very decrepit and a crappy place to live, but it definitely holds up to an aesthetic of, yeah, this is not a place you'd want to be, nor would you want to really meet the people or hang out with them that live here. So obviously we have this main window feature, which is using a real glass texture. Obviously there is some distortion, but I was not able to figure out what's causing that with the glass. Obviously there is an actual asset that's been molded to how these parts of the window actually form and fold. So yeah, obviously we can see a massive city scene. It's night. It's quite busy. You know, there's a lot of emissive hologram sort of advertising stuff going on. That of course is like direct influence and references to stuff like Blade Runner and that, where they have the infamous woman who's an interactive hologram and stuff like that, and you can actually talk to. You know, there's a little Easter egg down there with the image of the woman there to that. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on here. So again, I wanted the buildings to have a lot of emissives going on. You know, just a lot of things that you can't really make out, but you can definitely get a sense of. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on in this environment. We've got some more Targa animations going on with that blue spinning circle here, and we got this small one, and you know, the sphere is actually a real world object, so that is actually a sphere with just a texture, and it has a Fresnel to it. That's why we can see the glowing of the edges, and it has an earth texture. Pardon me, just to show, you know, quite a lot of you know, life to these emissive holograms, and we can see up there with the guy up there as well. Like, does that panner's doing a nice job of faking movement when there is actually none. It's just simply a shader. So yeah, obviously, as you've been able to see as I've been talking, these ships flying by, that was achieved using spline animation. Very interesting way of doing sort of animations that you have a lot of control over. They're just basically looked and they're set to do the exact same thing over and over again. So the more you stare at them, the more you'll just see that their flight paths are very, well, they're linear and fixed and they don't have any dynamic aspect to them, but they definitely do help add to the general feel of the environment. You get a sense that this is a place that is alive and you're just a very small digit in this massive universe. And then obviously we have this particle effect, which is just simulating some rain with a small birth time and you know, it was a lot of understanding I had to go through to really get particles like this working. Obviously, tutorials on Pluto site on YouTube help a lot with this stuff, and I've definitely learned a lot about particle systems, and hopefully I can carry that in the future of, you know, projects that I'll definitely take on. So yeah, I think that's basically everything I've covered.